The cosmic dance of the stars has always revealed truths about our personalities that we sometimes refuse to acknowledge. And for you, Capricorn, that mountain you've been climbing might be getting a bit lonely, hasn't it? There's a reason why the goat is often depicted scaling the highest peaks in solitude. Your zodiac sign carries the weight of ambition, determination, and uncompromising standards, traits that simultaneously drive your success and sometimes push others away from your orbit. Welcome back to another journey through the celestial secrets that shape our daily interactions. Today, we're focusing our cosmic lens on the ambitious, driven, and sometimes misunderstood Capricorn. That disciplined energy you radiate is powerful. It's what makes you the CEO of the Zodiac, the one who builds empires while others are still dreaming. But every strength casts a shadow, and yours might be keeping potential connections at bay without you even realizing it. Imagine standing at a party, calculating your next career move while everyone else is lost in conversation about their weekend plans. That's the Capricorn energy in action. Always 3 steps ahead, always planning, always working, even when you appear to be resting. Your mind never truly takes a vacation, does it? That relentless forward momentum is both your superpower and your kryptonite in the social realm. The stars have aligned to reveal 12 brutally honest reasons why people might be keeping their distance from you. And before you dismiss this as mere celestial speculation, take a moment to reflect. When was the last time someone told you that you were intimidating? When did you last hear that your standards were impossibly high? These aren't coincidences. They're the universe trying to send you a message through the reactions of those around you. For centuries, astrologers have observed how the Saturn-ruled Capricorn creates structures not just in their career, but in their personal boundaries as well. Those boundaries, while necessary for your sense of security, often become walls that others find difficult to scale. They're not equipped with your mountaineering skills, after all. They stand at the base of your emotional fortress, looking up, wondering if there's even a way in, or if you'd welcome them should they make the climb. As we navigate through these 12 revelations together, you might recognize parts of yourself that you've never articulated, aspects of your Capricorn nature that have been hiding in plain sight, influencing every relationship, every interaction, every first impression you've ever made. This isn't about changing who you are at your core. Your determination and practicality are gifts the world desperately needs. Rather, it's about understanding how your celestial blueprint might be perceived by others who operate under different cosmic influences. The wisdom of the Zodiac isn't just about self-knowledge. It's about creating harmony between your natural tendencies and the world around you. It's about recognizing when your Capricorn traits serve you and when they might be creating unnecessary distance. And that's exactly what our Zodiac family is here to explore together. So before we dive deeper into these revelations, take a moment to join our cosmic community. Hit that subscribe button to ensure the stars continue to guide you through videos like this one. Leave a like to acknowledge that you're ready to face these truths head on, with the typical Capricorn courage you're known for. Your fellow earth signs, water signs, fire signs, and air signs are already part of our celestial discussion, sharing their insights and growing from these cosmic revelations. Are you ready to confront these truths? Are you prepared to see yourself through the lens of the stars and perhaps understand why your path sometimes feels more solitary than you'd like? Let's begin our exploration with the first 3 reasons that might explain why others keep their distance from the powerful Capricorn energy you radiate. First reason, your relentless work ethic makes others feel inadequate. The sun hasn't even peaked above the horizon, but you're already awake, checking emails, planning your day, and mentally constructing the empire you're determined to build. While others are still wrapped in dreams, you're calculating your next strategic move. This isn't just an occasional burst of productivity. It's your baseline, your normal, your everyday reality. For you, Capricorn, rest is merely a necessity to fuel further work, not an experience to be savored. When colleagues witness your uncompromising dedication, they don't just see ambition, they see a mirror reflecting their own perceived shortcomings. Your 5 a.m. workout, followed by a full work day and evening strategy session, makes their balanced 8-hour workday feel somehow insufficient. They watch you decline social invitations to complete projects, sacrifice weekends to get ahead, and dedicate holidays to planning the next quarter. In your presence, their healthy boundaries start to feel like laziness. What you see as necessary dedication, they experience as an impossible standard. The casual Friday conversation turns tense when they mention weekend plans, and you subtly indicate your intention to refine the presentation that isn't due for weeks. Their excitement about taking a day off fades when they realize you haven't taken a vacation in 3 years. The weight of your unspoken judgment, often entirely projected by them, creates a pressure cooker atmosphere that many find easier to avoid entirely. Second reason, your brutal honesty cuts deeper than you realize. Truth, in your world, isn't just a virtue. It's the only acceptable currency. When someone asks for your opinion on their business idea, presentation, or even their new outfit, you don't see the point in diluting reality with comforting falsehoods. That business model has significant flaws that will lead to failure within a year. You state matter-of-factly, genuinely believing you're providing valuable insight rather than crushing dreams. Your analytical mind instantly identifies weaknesses, inefficiencies, and potential points of failure. Where others might choose to highlight strengths first or sandwich criticism between compliments, you deliver unfiltered assessments with surgical precision. You're not being cruel. In fact, in your mind, you're being helpful, saving them from future disappointment or wasted effort. What you might not recognize is how this honesty lands emotionally. Your words don't just communicate information, they carry the weight of your authority, your experience, your Capricorn gravitas. When you identify flaws, people don't just hear feedback, they hear definitive judgment from someone whose opinion they likely respect. Your assessment becomes prophecy in their minds, and few have the resilience to continue pursuing a path that you've deemed problematic. Friends who once eagerly shared their hopes with you now keep their aspirations private. Colleagues present only polished ideas rather than including you in the creative process. It's not that they don't value truth, it's that they need that truth delivered with the understanding that humans aren't just rational beings, but emotional ones too. Third reason, your long-term planning appears obsessive to present-focused individuals. While your peers are discussing weekend plans, you're calculating retirement contributions. When they're celebrating a project completion, you're already mapping out the next 5 years of strategic development. Your mind naturally extends into the future, visualizing detailed pathways and contingencies that others can barely conceive. At 25, you had a decade-by-decade breakdown of career milestones. Before purchasing your home, you'd already envisioned how it would serve your needs through multiple life stages or function as an investment property. Even your relationships undergo subconscious evaluation for long-term compatibility and alignment with your life trajectory. This farsightedness, this ability to sacrifice immediate pleasure for future security, is perhaps your greatest strength. But to those living primarily in the present, it can appear like a failure to experience life as it happens. They see you turning down spontaneous road trips because they don't align with your savings goals. They notice you checking retirement calculators while they're discussing concert tickets. They sense that part of you is always elsewhere, always focused on a future that may never materialize exactly as planned. The disconnect is fundamental. They value the richness of immediate experience, the depth of being fully present, while you value the security and satisfaction of knowing that each present moment is building towards something greater. Neither perspective is wrong, but the gap between them creates a subtle tension that can make casual connections difficult to sustain. Your Capricorn nature doesn't just plan, it needs to plan. Uncertainty feels physically uncomfortable to you, like wearing shoes on the wrong feet. What others don't understand is that your detailed roadmaps aren't just practical tools, but psychological safety nets that allow you to engage with the present at all. Without that sense of future security, your anxiety would likely overwhelm your ability to function effectively. If they could see beneath your composed exterior, they might recognize that your planning isn't about controlling life, but about creating a framework stable enough to allow for some vulnerability within its bounds. They might understand that your 5-year strategy isn't rigidity, but a form of creativity, a way of authoring your own story rather than merely reacting to circumstances. But these nuances remain largely invisible, leaving others to experience only the external manifestation of your future-focused mind, the declined invitations, the conversations that always seem to turn toward long-term considerations, the subtle dismissal of experiences that don't contribute to established goals. And so they gradually drift toward those whose timeframes more closely match their own, whose attentions are more fully available in the shared present moment. These first 3 reasons reveal not flaws in your character, but natural expressions of your Capricorn essence coming into contact with different ways of being. Understanding them doesn't require changing your nature, but perhaps developing a bilingual ability, learning to translate between your future-focused, truth-oriented, achievement-driven language and the diverse dialects of those around you who process reality through different zodiacal lenses. 4th reason, your emotional fortress is nearly impenetrable. Vulnerability isn't a state you enter willingly, Capricorn. You've constructed emotional defenses rivaling medieval architecture, complete with moats, drawbridges, and watchtowers that spot potential threats from miles away. This fortress wasn't built overnight, but stone by stone, through experiences that taught you early on that exposing your tender underbelly rarely ends well. Perhaps it was a childhood disappointment, a professional betrayal, or a heart shattered when you finally dared to love without reservation. Whatever the catalyst, the lesson crystallized. Emotions are messy, unpredictable, and potentially dangerous to your carefully constructed life plan. Your colleagues and acquaintances know the competent, controlled version of you, the one who handles crises with cool efficiency, who never breaks down in the office bathroom, who offers logical solutions rather than emotional validation. They admire this strength, even rely on it. Nothing rattles them, they say with admiration. What they don't realize is that behind closed doors, you feel everything, sometimes with an intensity that frightens even you. The difference is your masterful containment system, the internal pressure valves that release just enough emotion to function without revealing the depths of your inner ocean. Those few who have glimpsed behind the curtain, perhaps during a rare moment of extreme stress or after that 3rd glass of wine on your birthday, are often startled by the richness they discover, the passionate beliefs about justice you typically express through pragmatic policy suggestions rather than fiery speeches, the deep wells of compassion you channel into anonymous donations rather than visible empathy, the profound fears about inadequacy that fuel your relentless drive rather than manifest as visible insecurity. But these glimpses are rare, fleeting, and often quickly barricaded again. When someone says, "I never knew you felt that way," your internal alarms blare, reminding you why those feelings were secured behind walls in the first place. Each vulnerability hangover, that uncomfortable sensation the morning after revealing too much, reinforces your conviction that emotional containment equals safety. What you might not fully appreciate is how this protection system appears from the outside. Others sense the walls even if they can't articulate them. They feel the subtle way you redirect conversations away from emotional territory. Notice how your eyes briefly lose focus when discussions become too personal. Recognize the slight shift in your posture when someone else's vulnerability threatens to trigger your own. These subtle cues communicate a clear message: this far and no further. Even those genuinely interested in knowing the authentic you eventually tire of scaling walls only to discover new ones behind them. The emotional labor of attempting connection with someone who instinctively resists it becomes exhausting. It's not that they don't value your depth, it's that human connection requires reciprocal vulnerability, a mutual disarmament you rarely permit. 5th reason, your standards create an intimidating atmosphere even in casual settings. Excellence isn't just a goal for you, it's the baseline, the minimum acceptable threshold. This applies not only to your work, but to every aspect of life. The dinner party you host features impeccably researched recipes executed with precision. Your home isn't just clean, but methodically organized according to both efficiency and aesthetic principles. Even your casual Friday outfit has been thoughtfully curated to balance comfort with appropriate sophistication. This commitment to excellence stems from genuine values rather than superficial perfectionism. You believe that anything worth doing deserves your best effort, that cutting corners indicates a character deficiency rather than a practical necessity. There's something almost sacred in your approach to quality, a philosophy that elevates ordinary activities into expressions of personal integrity. What you may not fully grasp is how this creates an atmospheric pressure around you that others find difficult to breathe within. Your friends hesitate to invite you to their homes, acutely aware of the water stains on their glassware or the haphazard organization of their bookshelves. Colleagues triple-check emails before sending them to you, fearing your unspoken judgment of their grammar or reasoning. Even in supposedly relaxed social gatherings, your presence introduces a subtle current of awareness, an invisible standard against which others unconsciously measure themselves and often find themselves wanting. Your partner or close friends might have noticed how you scan environments upon entering, not with overt criticism, but with an automatic assessment that's become second nature to you. Your eyes briefly linger on the crooked picture frame, the inefficient kitchen layout, the presentation slide with misaligned text. You rarely comment on these observations unless asked directly, but others sense your evaluation nonetheless. This isn't about intentional judgment. In fact, you're often far less concerned with others' standards than they imagine. Your focus is primarily on your own performance, your own adherence to excellence, but the radiant effect of those high standards creates a gravitational field that pulls others into its orbit, making them acutely self-conscious about aspects of themselves or their work they might otherwise accept with equanimity. The cruel irony is that your standards are rarely applied as harshly to others as they imagine. You understand human imperfection, make allowances for differing priorities, and value people for qualities entirely separate from their adherence to your personal metrics of excellence. But this nuance remains largely invisible, overshadowed by the perceived weight of your expectations. Sixth reason, you prioritize practical achievements over emotional connections. Life for you is fundamentally about building, creating tangible results that stand as testament to your efforts. Your satisfaction comes from concrete accomplishments, the completed project, the achieved goal, the measurable improvement, the visible evidence of progress. This isn't shallow materialism, but a deep-seated need to transform vision into reality, to leave your mark on the physical world rather than merely passing through it. When you assess your day's success, you naturally inventory what was accomplished, tasks completed, problem solved, progress advanced. Your internal accounting system tracks these tangible outcomes, creating a satisfying sense of forward momentum when the ledger shows positive results. Conversations without actionable conclusions, activities without productive outputs, and relationships that don't contribute to growth or achievement often register as pleasant but ultimately expendable. What this practical orientation overlooks is that human connections operate by different metrics. The value of an afternoon spent in meandering conversation can't be measured by tangible outcomes, but by the invisible strengthening of relational tissue. The worth of supporting a friend through difficulty isn't calculated in solutions provided but in presence sustained. The significance of celebration isn't in its efficiency, but in its ability to honor human needs for recognition and shared joy. Others observe how you subtly steer social interactions toward productive channels, away from what you might perceive as aimless chatter and toward topics with substance or utility. They notice your slight discomfort during purely recreational activities, the way your mind seems to be simultaneously calculating how this experience might be optimized or what else might be accomplished in this time frame. Even your gifts tend towards the practical, tools that solve problems rather than indulgences that simply delight. This orientation creates a distinctive pattern in your relationships. People value your reliability, your problem-solving prowess, your steadfast support during concrete challenges. They know you'll help them move apartments, review their resume, or research medical options with thoroughness and dedication. But they may hesitate to approach you with nebulous emotional needs, the desire for validation without advice, comfort without solution, or simple companionship without purpose. The relationships that endure in your life tend to be those that accommodate this practical nature. Connections with people who appreciate your tangible expressions of care, rather than requiring emotional demonstrations that feel foreign to your nature. These compatible souls translate your acts of service into the love language they represent, understanding that your meticulous research into their medical condition carries the emotional weight that others might express through tears or embraces. But this compatibility is rare, creating a filtering effect that limits your circle to those who either share your practical orientation or possess the translational abilities to bridge between practical and emotional realms. Many potential connections never develop depth because this fundamental difference in relating creates too much friction, requiring too much conscious effort to sustain. What often remains invisible, even to yourself, is how much you actually crave emotional connection beneath your practical exterior. The Saturn-ruled Capricorn heart doesn't feel less deeply. It simply expresses and processes those feelings through different channels, often transmuting emotional needs into practical actions that feel safer and more controllable. Seventh reason, your natural skepticism often reads as perpetual pessimism. The world presents itself to you through a lens of cautious evaluation. Where others see exciting possibilities, you immediately identify potential pitfalls. This isn't negativity for its own sake. It's a finely tuned survival mechanism, a pragmatic approach that has served your ancestors well for millennia. After all, in the evolutionary landscape, optimists might have chased exciting opportunities, but it was the clear-eyed realists who survived long enough to pass on their genes. In meetings, you're inevitably the one asking the difficult questions. Have we considered what happens if the market shifts? What's our contingency plan if the supplier can't deliver? Are these projections based on realistic assumptions or best-case scenarios? These inquiries aren't designed to deflate enthusiasm, but to strengthen foundations. In your mind, you're not being negative. You're being thorough, responsible, even protective of the collective interest. What you might not fully register is how this consistent skepticism affects the emotional atmosphere around you. The entrepreneur passionately pitching their innovative concept watches your expression cloud with concerns before they've even finished articulating their vision. The friend excitedly sharing news about a promising job opportunity notices your immediate focus on potential complications rather than shared celebration. The partner suggesting a spontaneous vacation observes how quickly your mind jumps to logistical challenges rather than embracing the adventure. This pattern creates a distinctive emotional weather system around you, a persistent low-pressure system where others feel their natural enthusiasm gradually deflating. It's not any single instance of skepticism that creates distance, but the cumulative effect of repeatedly having their positive energy met with cautionary assessments. They begin to protect their excitement by simply not sharing it with you, preserving their enthusiasm by keeping it beyond the reach of your practical concerns. What remains largely invisible is your internal experience of this dynamic. You genuinely believe you're helping, strengthening plans, preventing disappointment, ensuring sustainable rather than fleeting success. The confusion and hurt you sometimes feel when others withdraw their enthusiasm from you stems from this fundamental misalignment of perception. You see yourself as the responsible architect, ensuring the structural integrity of dreams. They experience you as the rain cloud that appears whenever they dare to hope. This disconnect is particularly poignant because your skepticism actually emerges from care rather than cynicism. You want ventures to succeed, relationships to endure, and hopes to materialize into reality. Your critical assessment is ultimately in service of these positive outcomes, identifying weaknesses not to expose them, but to address them before they become fatal flaws. This profound misreading of your intentions can leave you feeling deeply misunderstood, further reinforcing your belief that most people prefer comfortable illusions to necessary truths. Eighth reason, You judge others harshly when they don't match your level of self-discipline. Self-mastery forms the cornerstone of your Capricorn identity. Your ability to override immediate impulses in service of long-term goals isn't just a skill you've developed. It's a moral framework through which you understand character itself. The 5 a.m. alarm you never snooze, the dessert you decline despite your sweet tooth, the weekend you dedicate to work while friends enjoy leisure. These aren't merely choices, but expressions of will that form the foundation of your self-respect. This disciplined approach has likely served you well, creating a life characterized by achievement, reliability, and steady progress toward your goals. The problem arises not from your self-discipline itself, but from the subtle moral judgment you attach to its absence in others. When a colleague repeatedly misses deadlines, you don't just see a performance issue, you perceive a character flaw. When a friend consistently overspends despite financial goals, you experience not just concern, but a flicker of diminished respect. Your judgment rarely manifests as direct criticism. More often, it appears as a subtle shift in your demeanor, a barely perceptible cooling of your expression, a slight withdrawal of warmth, a momentary hesitation before responding. These micro-expressions may seem insignificant to you, but others, particularly those who value your opinion, register them with surprising accuracy. They sense the withdrawal of your full respect, creating a type of conditional regard that makes relaxed connection difficult to maintain. What this perspective fails to account for is the complex relationship between circumstance, neurological wiring, and behavior. The self-discipline that comes relatively naturally to your Saturn-ruled nature may require monumentally more effort from someone with different neurological patterns. The consistent structure that supports your productivity might actively hinder the creative process of someone whose brilliance emerges from less linear approaches. The financial restraint that seems like basic responsibility to you might represent a genuine psychological struggle for someone healing from scarcity trauma. Even more fundamentally, this perspective assumes a universal hierarchy of values with self-discipline positioned near the summit. It doesn't allow space for equally valid frameworks where spontaneity, emotional expressiveness, creative flow, or present moment awareness might occupy positions of similar importance. In judging others by your particular constellation of values, you inadvertently communicate that their different prioritization is not just different, but deficient. Those who sense this judgment eventually protect themselves by either exhaustingly performing discipline in your presence or gradually withdrawing from regular contact. Neither option fosters the authentic connection that beneath your disciplined exterior, you genuinely desire. 9th reason, your calculated approach to relationships feels strategic rather than authentic. Relationships, in your worldview, are not just emotional connections, but practical alignments that should serve meaningful purposes in your life. You assess compatibility with the same thoughtful analysis you bring to career decisions, weighing factors like shared values, complementary strengths, mutual support capacities, and long-term viability. This isn't cold calculation, but prudent evaluation, a recognition that relationships require significant investment and should therefore be entered with appropriate consideration. This measured approach extends beyond initial formation into the ongoing maintenance of connections. You instinctively recognize that relationships require regular investment to remain healthy, so you might schedule regular phone calls with distant friends, plan quarterly date nights with your partner, or ensure you acknowledge important milestones. These actions stem from genuine care, translated through your natural orientation towards structure and intention. What you might not fully appreciate is how this careful curation can appear to others, particularly those who approach relationships from more spontaneous or emotionally driven perspectives. They sense the framework behind your actions, the conscious decision-making that precedes your reaching out, the intentional effort behind your maintenance of the connection. While you see this as responsible stewardship of important bonds, they may experience it as somehow programmatic, missing the organic unpredictability they associate with real connection. This perception becomes particularly pronounced in romantic relationships, where potential partners may feel assessed rather than simply appreciate it. They notice how you evaluate their compatibility with your life goals, career trajectory, or 5-year plan. While you're simply being thorough and intentional, they may feel reduced to a spreadsheet of attributes rather than embraced as a complex, ever-evolving being. Even established relationships can suffer from this dynamic. Long-term partners sometimes express feeling like another box checked on your life accomplishment list rather than a central protagonist in a shared story. Friends might wonder whether you maintain the connection out of genuine affection or from a sense of social obligation or strategic networking. These doubts create a subtle undertone of uncertainty that makes complete relaxation in your presence difficult to achieve. The painful irony is that your structured approach to relationships often stems from valuing them deeply rather than dismissing their importance. You invest thought, planning, and consistent effort precisely because you understand the irreplaceable value of strong connections. You recognize that relationships left entirely to chance and fluctuating emotion often wither without the sustaining structure of intentional maintenance. What remains largely invisible to others is how this structured approach might be your way of managing the vulnerability that deep connection requires. By creating frameworks and systems for your relationships, you establish a controlled environment where you can gradually allow your carefully guarded heart to engage without feeling completely exposed. This isn't manipulation, but self-protection, a bridge you've built between your need for emotional safety and your equally important need for meaningful connection. Those who manage to understand this aspect of your nature, who can see beyond the apparent strategy to the caring intention beneath, often become your most enduring connections. They recognize that your scheduled check-ins carry the same emotional weight as another's spontaneous outreach, that your careful consideration before committing to deeper involvement reflects prudence rather than hesitation, that your relationship maintenance systems are expressions of value rather than obligations to be fulfilled. But developing this understanding requires a level of insight and patience that many casual connections never reach, creating a filtering effect that limits your circle to those with the perspective to appreciate your particular expression of care. Others drift away, seeking connections that feel more spontaneous and emotionally evident, never recognizing the depth of consideration that your more structured approach actually represents. 10th reason, you dismiss others' dreams as unrealistic when they lack concrete plans. Vision without execution is merely hallucination, a philosophy that fundamentally shapes your approach to aspirations. When someone shares their dream of starting a business, writing a novel, or traveling the world, your mind immediately begins constructing the practical scaffold necessary to transform that ethereal vision into tangible reality. What steps would they need to take? What resources would be required? What timeline would be realistic? What obstacles must be anticipated? This pragmatic orientation isn't meant to diminish dreams, but to actualize them. In your view, you're not crushing ambitions, but fortifying them with the structural support necessary for them to stand against the inevitable winds of reality. You genuinely believe you're being helpful when you ask probing questions about financial backing, market research, or contingency plans. These aren't designed to discourage, but to transform wishful thinking into achievable outcomes. What this approach fails to recognize is the delicate embryonic stage that precedes practical planning, the fragile period where dreams need protective warmth before exposure to the cold light of feasibility analysis. Many creative and entrepreneurial journeys begin not with detailed roadmaps, but with the spark of inspiration, the emotional connection to possibility that generates the energy necessary to later tackle the hard work of implementation. When you immediately respond to someone's newly shared dream with practical concerns, have you calculated the startup costs? Do you have any publishing connections? How will you fund a year of travel? You unknowingly extinguish that essential spark before it has a chance to generate sufficient heat. The dreamer wasn't seeking immediate practical counsel, but the emotional fuel of shared excitement, the temporary suspension of limiting beliefs that allows new possibilities to take root. Creative minds, entrepreneurial spirits, and visionary thinkers begin to avoid sharing their embryonic ideas with you. recognizing that your pragmatic lens might dissect their fragile inspiration before it develops protective layers. They turn instead to others who will nurture the flame of possibility before introducing the necessary constraints of reality. This creates a filtering effect where you hear fewer creative ideas, receive fewer invitations to brainstorming sessions, and become less involved in the exciting generative phases of projects. The subtle tragedy lies in how this dynamic deprives both parties. Others miss out on the invaluable practical wisdom you could offer at the appropriate stage, while you miss the energizing joy of participating in the messy, non-linear process of creation. Your life becomes increasingly populated by fellow pragmatists, creating an echo chamber that reinforces your belief that practical analysis should precede emotional investment rather than follow it. What remains invisible to others is how your pragmatic approach often stems from painful experience, perhaps previous ventures that failed due to insufficient planning, dreams that dissolved when confronted with unanticipated obstacles, or witnessed disappointments that might have been prevented through better preparation. Your desire to immediately assess feasibility isn't meant to destroy dreams, but to protect the dreamer from the crushing weight of preventable failure. 11th reason, your reluctance to celebrate small victories makes you seem perpetually dissatisfied. Achievement in your worldview exists on a continuum with clearly defined milestones marking genuine progress. The completion of preliminary tasks, incremental advancements, or partial victories don't register as achievements worthy of celebration, but merely as expected steps toward the actual goal. When your team celebrates meeting a routine deadline, you participate with polite restraint, saving your genuine enthusiasm for truly exceptional outcomes. When friends toast to small personal improvements, your congratulations carry a subtle note of, "but there's still more to do," that dampens the celebratory atmosphere. This measured response to achievement isn't born from a lack of capacity for joy, but from a highly calibrated standard for what constitutes meaningful progress. You're preserving the currency of celebration, ensuring that your enthusiasm remains meaningful rather than inflated through overuse. In your mind, treating every small step as a major victory would diminish the significance of truly remarkable accomplishments and potentially lead to complacency before the actual goal is reached. What you might not fully appreciate is how this reserved approach to celebration affects both individual and collective momentum. Human motivation operates through complex psychological mechanics, with intermittent positive reinforcement playing a crucial role in sustaining effort toward distant goals. Those small celebrations you find unnecessary actually serve as essential refueling stations on the long journey toward a major achievements, providing the emotional energy necessary to continue when the ultimate destination remains distant. Your team members notice how quickly you pivot from acknowledging a completed project to focusing on the next challenge, with barely a moment to absorb the satisfaction of the recent accomplishment. Friends observe how your acknowledgement of their progress consistently includes subtle references to the distance still remaining. Partners feel the weight of unmet expectations when their efforts to improve receive only qualified recognition rather than wholehearted appreciation. This pattern creates a distinctive emotional atmosphere around you, a perpetual sense of striving without arriving, of effort without adequate reward, of movement without rest. Others begin to feel that nothing they achieve will ever quite be enough, that your approval remains perpetually just beyond reach. This perception gradually erodes motivation rather than enhancing it, creating precisely the diminished performance you sought to prevent through maintaining high standards. The irony is that your restrained celebration often stems from deep care rather than cold judgment. You want others to achieve their full potential, to experience the profound satisfaction of genuine excellence rather than settling for mediocrity. Your focus on continued improvement comes from believing in people's capacity for greatness, not from finding them perpetually lacking. This positive intention remains largely invisible, overshadowed by the emotional impact of feeling that one's efforts are consistently deemed insufficient. 12th reason, you guard your time so fiercely that spontaneous connections rarely happen. time, in your Capricorn framework, is perhaps the most precious and finite resource, a non-renewable asset that must be invested with the same strategic consideration you bring to financial decisions. Your calendar reflects this philosophy, with carefully allocated blocks ensuring optimal use of your hours and minimal waste on activities with low return on investment. This structured approach has likely contributed significantly to your productivity, reliability, and steady progress toward long-term goals. Your time management extends beyond professional contexts into personal realms. Social engagements appear in your calendar weeks in advance, with duration often predetermined to fit within your broader schedule. Spontaneous invitations typically meet with hesitation or regret, not because you don't value the potential experience, but because accepting would require rearranging carefully calibrated plans. Even seemingly simple suggestions, "Let's grab coffee sometime," often translate in your mind to complex calendar calculations rather than straightforward possibilities. What this carefully structured approach fails to accommodate is the unpredictable nature of meaningful human connection. Some of the most profound conversations, deepest bonding experiences, and most memorable shared moments emerge not from scheduled appointments, but from unplanned extensions of time. The coffee that unexpectedly stretches into dinner, the quick check-in that evolves into hours of soul-searching dialogue, the brief encounter that spontaneously transforms into an adventure. Others eventually learn that invitations must be issued well in advance to have any chance of appearing in your schedule. They recognize that suggesting an impromptu gathering will likely be met with regretful decline. They understand that even when you do attend social functions, you'll often be checking the time, mentally calculating your departure to accommodate the next commitment. This knowledge gradually shapes their behavior, reducing the frequency of invitations and limiting their expectations of your availability. The social world increasingly adapts around your structured approach, creating a self-reinforcing system where fewer spontaneous opportunities emerge, precisely because your reputation for unavailability precedes you. Colleagues stop including you in the impromptu happy hour because you're always busy. Friends cease texting last-minute concert invitations because you never say yes anyway. Family members plan mandatory attendance events with military precision because otherwise you won't make it. What remains largely invisible to others is how this careful guardianship of time often stems from legitimate overwhelm rather than lack of interest in connection. Your responsibilities, professional demands, family obligations, personal commitments may genuinely leave precious little flexible time in your schedule. Your structured approach isn't rejection, but a necessary survival strategy in a life filled with competing priorities and limited hours. Even more fundamentally, your time management may represent a form of emotional self-protection. Unstructured social situations often require a vulnerability and spontaneity that feels uncomfortable given your preference for preparation and control. By maintaining a carefully managed schedule, you create a protective framework that allows you to engage socially while maintaining the sense of stability that supports your emotional well-being. Those who manage to secure regular space in your calendar often discover a depth of attention and presence that more spontaneous personalities might struggle to provide. When you commit time, you truly commit, showing up fully, engaging genuinely, and bringing the same quality of focused attention to personal connections that you bring to professional responsibilities. This depth of engagement represents a different but equally valuable approach to relationship, one that prioritizes quality of attention over frequency of contact. But developing appreciation for this distinctive relational style requires sustained interaction that many potential connections never reach, creating yet another filtering mechanism that limits your circle to those willing to adapt to your structured approach. Others drift toward more spontaneously available companions, seeking the ease of last-minute plans and flexible timeframes rather than navigating the more formal scheduling that access to your time requires. These 12 reasons collectively illustrate not deficiencies, but natural expressions of your Capricorn essence, the distinctive planetary influences that shape your approach to life and relationship. understanding them offers not a mandate for fundamental change, but an opportunity for conscious navigation of the impact your natural tendencies create in your social ecosystem. With this awareness, you can make intentional choices about when to lean into your Capricorn strengths and when to consciously stretch toward complementary energies, creating a balanced expression that honors your essential nature while fostering the connections your soul ultimately desires. The cosmic journey through the Capricorn psyche reveals a complex constellation of traits that simultaneously drive your success and create distance in your relationships. We've explored how your relentless work ethic makes others feel inadequate beside your perpetual productivity. We've examined how your brutal honesty, while well-intentioned, can wound those seeking validation before critique. Your long-term planning, appearing obsessive to present-focused individuals, creates a fundamental disconnect in how you and others experience time. We've delved into your emotional fortress, walls built not from coldness but from self-protection, and how these defenses prevent others from truly knowing the depth beneath your composed hysteria. Your impossibly high standards create an atmospheric pressure around you, where others feel perpetually evaluated, even when your critical assessment is primarily self-directed. Your prioritization of practical achievements over emotional connections means you build impressive structures while sometimes neglecting the invisible architecture of human bonds. Your natural skepticism, often misread as pessimism, dampens others' enthusiasm when you believe you're simply being thorough. The harsh judgment you apply when others don't match your self-discipline creates a conditional regard that makes relaxed connection difficult to maintain. Your calculated approach to relationships, while stemming from genuine valuation of these bonds, can feel strategic rather than authentic to those seeking more spontaneous connection. We've uncovered how you dismiss dreams lacking concrete plans, unknowingly extinguishing the fragile spark of possibility before it can generate enough heat to fuel the journey. Your reluctance to celebrate small victories creates an atmosphere of perpetual striving without the essential emotional refueling that sustains motivation. Finally, your fierce guardianship of time means spontaneous connections, often the birthplace of the deepest relationships, rarely have the opportunity to develop in your carefully structured life. These 12 aspects of your Capricorn nature aren't flaws to be eliminated, but natural expressions of your cosmic blueprint that create specific patterns in your social ecosystem. The awareness of these patterns offers not condemnation, but opportunity, the chance to consciously navigate your natural tendencies, leaning into your Capricorn strengths, while strategically stretching toward complementary energies when connection is your priority. Remember that the very qualities creating distance also generate your remarkable capacity for achievement, reliability, and depth. The world needs your Capricorn gifts. Your ability to build lasting structures, maintain commitments when others falter, and see clearly through illusions to practical reality. The challenge isn't changing your fundamental nature, but developing a bilingual capacity to translate between your natural approach and the diverse languages of those around you. If these revelations have illuminated aspects of your Capricorn journey, we invite you to become part of our cosmic community at Secret of the Zodiac. Subscribe to our channel to ensure you never miss our astrological insights, personality revelations, and guidance tailored to each sign's unique challenges. Our videos offer not just understanding of your own cosmic blueprint, but wisdom about navigating relationships with every sign in the zodiac. Leave a comment sharing which of these 12 reasons resonated most deeply with your experience. Are you a Capricorn recognizing yourself in these patterns? Are you someone who loves a Capricorn and finally understanding the mysterious distance you've sensed? Your shared insights create a constellation of collective wisdom that illuminates the path for others walking similar cosmic journeys. If you found value in these revelations, please support our ongoing cosmic exploration by hitting the like button, sharing this video with others who might benefit from this understanding, and considering our other zodiac analyses in our growing library of astrological content. We also invite you to support Secret of the Zodiac through Super Thanks, a direct financial contribution that helps cover the costs of research, production, and creation of daily Zodiac content. Your support through Super Thanks allows us to maintain the quality and frequency of our cosmic insights, ensuring we can continue providing these revelations without compromising depth or accuracy. Every contribution, regardless of size, directly fuels our ability to create more of the content that resonates with your spiritual journey. The stars have guided human understanding for millennia, and in our modern world, we need their wisdom more than ever. Join us as we continue decoding the cosmic messages written across the night sky, translating ancient stellar wisdom into practical guidance for contemporary challenges. Together, we'll navigate not just the mysteries of the Zodiac, but the even greater mystery of human connection across our beautiful differences.